Hi everyone, Hayley Gant here from Quest Trust Company, here with a brand new episode of Quest Talks. Today we have Nate Hare, Executive Vice President of Quest Trust Company, and today we're going to be talking about tax-free home run deals within a self-directed IRA. We've brought several case studies we're going to be going through on today's show and kind of analyzing what these clients did that helped make their deals a home run. So stay tuned, we've got a great show coming up. We'll be right back.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCashflow.com, and Life and Air.
All right, everyone, we are back. Welcome to today's episode of Quest Talks. My name's Hayley Gant. I'm an IRA specialist at Quest Trust Company, and today we're super excited to have Nate Hare, Executive Vice President of Quest here, and we have some brand new case studies that we actually do not include in our classes. So we've got a really special show for you guys today. Today we've brought some of these case studies that were some really awesome home run deals that some of our clients have done, and we're going to analyze the case studies and analyze what exactly helped to make them a home run deal. So first of all, what is a home run deal? There's a lot of different ways you can structure your IRA investment. So you want to learn about how you can structure these investments first. These clients that we're going to be looking at today, they were all, or most of them actually were experienced IRA investors, but a few of them, it was actually their first deal they ever did with their IRAs. So if you're new to investing or new to self-directed IRAs, there's definitely a takeaway you can pick up from each of these different case studies that we hope you enjoy them today. So getting started, we're going to talk a little bit about owner financing. So owner financing, as you guys know, is a really hot topic right now. A lot of people are saying, oh, should I hold it as a rental or should I owner finance it out and, make that principal and interest back and potentially increase your overall returns on your investments over the course of several years. So that's exactly what we're going to go over in these first case studies. We actually have two really awesome owner finance deals. The first one is actually my dad. He's a very experienced Quest client. He's done several investments since 1999, and that's kind of how I ended up at Quest.
Did you say several investments?
Several hundred
investments. Yeah, let's not cut it short.
It's going to be a little subtle about that one. But no, it's true. My parents have been Quest clients since 2004. They understand all of these different ways of doing creative deals and creative financing. And I actually pulled this case study from an event that we did in March in our Dallas office. It was called March Madness, where we brought 7 speakers out. They each presented their own case study of a deal that they did with $10K or less of an initial investment. And then we made them all battle it out to see who had the best case study. And proud Gant moment right here. My dad actually won the event. He is quite the storyteller. So if you want to watch his
one of the best storytellers out there.
Yeah. So if you guys want to rewatch his take on this case study, it's probably going to be much more lively and entertaining than ours here today.
We do not do it as the service, but it's still a good case study. So go watch that March Madness event and watch Eddie Gant present this case study.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
So
I will post the link in the comments below. But there's 6 other case studies on that deal. But basically, my dad is a Homevestors franchisee. So if you know those billboards that are bright yellow, they say, "We buy ugly houses." A lot of people call Homevestors when they are in distress and they need to get rid of a property that probably is not in great condition. So this one, in my dad's words, were a junker and turning a junker into tax-free passive income. And he said it looked bad and it smelled worse. So, and he also, whenever he talks about this case study, he says, most investors, you may not want the really, really bad junker houses. A lot of times people may actually drive past those, but he said, no. Don't hit the accelerator, hit the brakes. The worse it is, the more junky it is, the more money there potentially is in that property. So that's exactly what he did with this deal. He went out and found a house. I have some pictures of it. This thing wasn't even it doesn't look like it was probably livable.
It was lopsided, I think.
It was slightly lopsided, probably missing a few things like electricity, breakers, things like that. But he bought this property for $9,000. This was obviously a distressed seller, not taking care of the property, probably didn't have the money to take care of it. But, the reality of it is properties like that, you maybe not just sweep the floors, maybe put some electricity into it. He bought this property for $9,000, stuck a sign in the yard, and owner financed it for $51,000 just from this yard sign within about 2 weeks of when he bought this property. So he owner financed it for $51,000. The initial investment was $9,000 and the down payment from the buyer was $5,000. So within 2 weeks, his IRA was really only out $4,000. Over the course of 15 years at an interest rate of 9.9%, the total return to the IRA over the life of the investment is going to be just over $93,000. Would you guys do that investment? I would do that investment.
All day long.
Or I'll have my parents do it, even better.
Yeah.
So right now, he said that this buyer has never missed a payment. They bought this property, the owner financed it. They're 8 years into it. They've got about 7 years into it. They've got about 8 years left. He's never missed a payment. And so owner financing a property with your IRA could potentially be a really great investment strategy. Nate, did you have any input on that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a great investment. I mean, he found, and I'd love to hear the background of how he found the seller. To me, I mean, reading between the lines, it sounds like he might have found him, the guy might have inherited the properties based on what I know of what happened afterwards. But that's a, great opportunity for real estate investors is when you find, people that might have inherited property, they might live out of state, they haven't tended to the property, and this just sounds like, for whatever reason, this property definitely wasn't being tended to until your dad drove by it and hit the brakes.
Yeah,
and
when
like
no one
says,
else is hitting the brakes.
And your dad always says there's money in junk.
Yeah.
So if you can find a way to, take those types of properties and get them performing again, or just pay attention to it, really, because it sounded like the original homeowner just wasn't paying attention to it. It worked out very well for your dad. Obviously, this was all done in his IRA, Roth IRA?
I hope so.
I hope so, yeah,
for
right?
For my sake.
Yeah. So, obviously, because the Roth IRA grows completely tax-free, so the initial investment he made was $9,000. He got $5,000 back with the down payment, so he really only carried out $4,000 and made that up pretty quickly in just the interest payments from the person that he seller financed it to, pretty quickly. I would say this though, obviously be cautious with that investment strategy. Consult with an attorney because owner financing does put some additional concerns in your pocket. It's not like you are financing a loan on an investment property. You're financing a loan to basically somebody's homestead.
The consumer.
Right, right. So you always want to make sure that you understand the rules of, what could go wrong in the event that borrower actually stops making payments, but it's the house that they live in.
Yes, and like we say on every show at Quest, we do not give tax, legal, or investment advice. We give a ton of education about self-directed IRAs, but if you're wanting to learn about this particular strategy about, buying really cheap and owner financing it out, watch some of the other Propelio videos. Watch the Propelio Academy. I know there's several other people that come on these shows that are experts at owner finance. They do it day in and day out. So if you are a new investor or you're looking for ways to really maximize these small initial investments, learn about owner financing. It's a really great option. We see it a lot. It's actually also my second case study that I brought with me today. But go out there and consult that advice of the professionals, consult the right education, and when you're ready to use your self-directed IRA for it, call us, come to our classes. We always say, to hit a home run deal, you have to know the rules of the game. So a little anecdote we kind of came up for today's class. So know the rules of how it works. Know if I buy this property cheap, how can I owner finance it out? It's all about setting yourself up with the right steps from the beginning. So that way, once you're ready to do this, once this opportunity does come along, you have the means and education and resources to actually get it done. And the type of account is also another big thing that helped to set this investment apart, as well as the next case study, is that type of account. Do you want to do this investment in a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA? Do you have an old 401k, or do you even have a Roth IRA? But if you guys are watching, you don't know the difference between these accounts. You hear a lot of the gurus and everyone talk about the Roth IRA because that is the account that grows completely tax-free. If you do your investments in a traditional IRA, none of your profit from your investments will be taxed right now. It all goes back into the IRA, but those taxes are deferred. Whenever you go to take out those profits later at retirement, that's when you pay the taxes on that money, where the Roth IRA is the exact opposite. Your after-tax dollars are what initially go into that account, so it all grows. As it grows, that money is considered to have already been taxed. So if you do a $9,000 initial investment and you get back $93,000 within, under 20 years, which I know I have over 20 years until retirement, that's definitely doable. And if you do that a few times over your life, you'll have enough to retire. And by doing that in a Roth IRA, all grows completely tax-free.
All tax-free. And here's some other takeaways with that too, is it was a phenomenal investment for his IRA. It's also one of those investments that fits well in an IRA because it's one of those investments that you put on the shelf.
Yeah.
Right? If you're a real estate investor, sometimes investments that pay off quicker, wholesaling, real estate options even sometimes, flips, maybe those are investments best done in your personal name because obviously you're looking to feed yourself first. But don't pass up on the investments that might pay off in 15 or 20 years. The maximum benefit on this investment is when this loan is paid off, and the whole time it's tied to the house, which is tangible. So he's always got something to fall back on. But the end goal is that the buyer just makes payments, and they've been making payments for 7 years on time. They've got another 8 years. So again, it's something that he just puts on the shelf, and potentially $90,000 roughly is going to be completely tax-free. And the other thing too that we failed to mention is this was also, I think, a benefit to the homeowner because I'm assuming that based on the condition of the house, maybe where it was at, and the fact that they needed seller financing, they probably couldn't get regular financing or conventional financing in a bank. So not only did your dad provide a good investment for his retirement and hopefully your inheritance one day, but he also provided a benefit to the homeowners, which he basically sold them the American dream through creative financing. And not only that, he did 2 more of the same investments because same original seller who sold it to him for $9,000 had 2 other properties. Similar size, similar area, sold it to him for $9,000, and he repeated it 2 more times.
As Eddie always says, there is money in junk. He would be so proud of me right now for saying that. But it's true, you know, look at those opportunity type properties because more than likely there is a distressed seller. If someone inherited that property and you know there's equity in that property, that is a hot lead. You want to go out to that house today, you know, build the relationship there. Actually, in the next case study, it was also one of our case studies from March Madness. If you guys watch our episodes of Quest Talks, I actually had Nancy Wallace Labs on the show a couple of weeks ago, and I talk about this case study all the time, but it's honestly one of my favorite case studies. I actually helped Nancy set up her Quest account, and she was super excited. She came in, she opened up her account, and she made a contribution, and she came in a week later, and she goes, Hayley, I think we found a property. There's this property, you know, like Glenn found it, one of her business partners that she works with, and they found a house. I think it's in the Fort Worth Historic District. This house had been vacant for 5 years, and they purchased this property for $10,000. But this one is a little bit different from my dad's deal because Nancy actually partnered her Roth IRA with Glenn's just $5,000. Glenn didn't use his IRA, and I bet he wishes that he did because they got a really nice payoff from this investment. But the total purchase of this next property was $10,000. $5,000 of that purchase price came from Nancy's Roth IRA. The other $5,000 came from Glenn. So on this purchase contract, when you're partnering either multiple IRAs together or just, you know, different people with different IRAs, each party will be listed on that purchase contract, Quest Trust Company, for the benefit of Nancy's IRA, as to an undivided interest of 50%. And then Glenn was also listed on that contract as to an undivided interest of 50%. And you get a lot of freedom in how you want to structure these percentages. There are some restrictions that we'll get into, you know, kind of after the case studies once we start wrapping those up a little bit. But there's a lot of ways you can structure that. It didn't have to be 50-50. It could have been 75-25. I personally partnered my Roth IRA, and it's owned like 8% of a property. It's owned 12% of another. It's really up to you. And what are your needs? How much do you have in the IRA? How much is the purchase price of that property? We can't tell you how to structure the deal, but we can talk conceptually and, of course, you know, consult an attorney or someone else that, you know, can help you draft up those documents. But Nancy partnered a $5,000 Roth IRA with another $5,000. They purchased this property for $10,000. And I asked her, I was like, this probably had to be a pretty ugly property, didn't it? And she said, when they actually got in there and, you know, they opened up the doors, although it had been vacant for 5 years, this house was built in the 1940s, it honestly wasn't that bad. You know, they did, you know, minor stuff to it. Of course, when it's your IRA, you cannot go out and physically do that work yourself. You know, so someone else went up and cleaned up that property just a little bit. I think they literally swept the floors.
And this was her first deal.
This was her first deal in her IRA, yeah. Within the first month that she opened up her Quest account.
And she's such a nice lady too. I believe when she came to our classes, I mean, she was literally just coming to learn about self-directed IRAs for the first time. And I think she even told me later that one of the things that dawned on her through our classes is that she didn't have to have all the money in her IRA, that she could partner other buckets of money together.
Yeah.
You could partner IRAs and non-IRA money together too, even if you had some personal money. Let's say Nancy wanted to partner, some $5,000 of her own.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an option. You got to be cautious on not commingling the funds, but the point we're trying to make is that it doesn't really matter how much money you have in a retirement account. It's what can you do with other buckets of money, whether it's sourcing money from banks. There's banks that actually give IRAs loans. And there's also tons of IRAs out there, whether it's you, your spouse, your other family members. If you get them involved, then you realize you've got more money than you thought you did because you're using other people's money.
It's so true. And then not only that, and I love to talk about this because we teach a lot about self-directed IRAs, and typically when someone stumbles upon our classes or our webinars or our education, they're like, this is awesome. I wish I had known about this 5 years ago. Well, if you're thinking that, your spouse probably should also know about it. Your brother should know about it. Don't think about just yourself and your own retirement. Think about your other family members and about all the different tax advantage accounts that you can take advantage of. And then not only are you growing just your Roth IRA, but you're helping to grow your family's long-term wealth as well and avoiding a lot of taxes on the money that you make. So about avoiding taxes, a little bit of numbers on this deal. They got it under contract for $10,000. Half of it came from the IRA. They also stuck a sign in the yard. It had the writing in English and Spanish, and within 3 days, someone called them and wanted to purchase that property, owner finance. The down payment for this one was $10,000. So within 2 weeks of them getting this property under contract, her IRA got that initial investment right back, and over the course of the next 15 years, the total earnings from this deal is $87,000. So half of that over the course of the investment.
I'd say that's a home run.
Yeah, I'd say it's a home run.
That's a pretty good home run.
Only half of it goes to the IRA, so she's only going to get 40-something thousand out of this deal.
Shucks.
But that $5,000 initial investment is less than the contribution limits for this year. They did slightly increase the contribution limits this year. Now you get a whole $6,000 that you can put into an IRA. But most people are so blinded by that. They're like, that's not enough to invest and grow and then eventually retire on. If I only have 10 years until retirement and my $6,000 only grows by 5% a year, that's not enough to retire on. But you have all these other options that we want to help educate you on and educate yourself about the rules and restrictions and how to be in compliance with those. And then you have all of these other creative investment strategies that you can use.
One thing that gets confusing for people too, we always get this question is, say for instance, that example, she made an investment of $5,000, but she made a lot of money back. Profit is not considered contribution. So we always get that confused. Well, if you're only allowed to put in, say $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a year, but you make $10,000 back, doesn't that go against your contribution? Those are actually two completely separate things. Contributions is what you take out of your pocket and add to the account each year. And there are contribution limits for each year that you contribute. But you don't even have to contribute every single year because your investments, I think, is the best way to grow the account. Not by you shoveling contributions in. It's applying it to an investment strategy that funds, that grows the account for you. And profit is unlimited. So just like in your dad's example, he didn't need to make more contributions to the account. Like he said, he goes, what does he say? He says, oh man, it's something about the a license to print money. He goes, this is a license to print money. He holds up the contract and he goes, this is a license to print money, because basically what he did is what's growing the account is the strategy, not his contributions.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, he said that so many times. You guys have to go watch that March Madness video. It is hilarious.
I watched it a dozen times. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and he's not just saying it, he is yelling it. Like, he's so excited. He came so amped to win this event, and which he did. But we are, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. We will be right back. Definitely stay tuned. If you guys like today's content, be sure to like, comment, and share all of those fun things. Share it with your friends. We'll be right back.
Home run deals.
The Propelio Academy, an all-in-one education resource for training in wholesales, subject to wraps, short sales, flips, rentals, BRRRR, property management, and more. Go to propelio.com/academy to get your scholarship today. Propelio.com. What does Propelio offer? lead generating websites, access to true MLS comps, off-market lead lists, and deal alerts. Get them all today at Propelio.com.
All right, everyone, we are back. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Quest Talks. I'm Hayley Gant. I'm an IRA specialist at Quest Trust Company, here today with Nate Hare, Executive Vice President at Quest. So we've got a lot of IRA knowledge up here today. You guys are in for a treat. We've brought some really special case studies. Before the break, we were talking about owner financing within an IRA, which can be a really great investment strategy. Again, always consult professionals so you know the ins and outs of how to stay in compliance with the laws and regulations with those investments. But we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit to the next investment. Nate actually brought this one up from Houston. This was not in my outline, but it's probably one of the best ones we have today. Nate, tell us a little bit about the one that you brought for us.
So when I think of home run deals, the first one that comes to mind is this deal by a client of ours in Houston. So anyone who's familiar with Houston is probably familiar with an area called the Third Ward. Okay, Third Ward is actually one of the hottest real estate markets right now. But several years back, I mean, it was a pretty rough area of town, and there weren't many real estate investors that wanted to focus on Third Ward, except our client. Okay. Now our client is a real estate investor. He's got a development company, so he understands the market. But he has his office right in the smack dab middle of Third Ward, and he's had it there for 20 years. Now, the reason why that's important to this story is because he became a name for himself in the community, that if anybody had a problem with their real estate or needed a solution to their real estate, is they went and saw Joe. Okay, they went and saw Joe, they knew where his office was, and he often solved a lot of people's problems in the community because he was just very, very familiar with real estate investing. So one day, a lady comes knocking on his door, and she had a problem. Okay? And she said that her problem was she hadn't been paying her property taxes, and she was going to be out on the street in a matter of weeks. Now, she's 75 years old. She had no family to stay with. Okay? She was retired for a long period of time, but just, for whatever reason, fell short on money and wasn't paying the property taxes, and now she's between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, she's in a bind.
Right.
For sure.
So Joe, wanted to help her out. Went out to look at the property. Now this property was a hoarder house. Okay, she had stacked up a lot of things in there. It wasn't really something he wanted to buy, but he wanted to help this poor woman out. So after running some numbers with her, he found out she needed about $5,000 to catch up the property taxes, but that still didn't solve her solution of, what's going to happen, over the next, say, 2 years, right? She doesn't have any money to continue to pay the property taxes, so she's just going to wind up in that same position if something doesn't need to be done. So this is what he decided to do. Instead of just buying the property from her, because there really was no point to buy it, where's she going to go? It's a hoarder house. He didn't want to deal with a hoarder house. So what they decided to do is they structured a little different, which is they did a real estate option. And a real estate option is just a different way to, buy property. It's a one-way contract. In order to have an option, which is just the first right to buy the property, you have to give consideration to that homeowner. Okay? And then in return for the consideration, there's terms, which is you have an option period, you have a price in which you state that you can buy it. And basically, long story short, he said, I'll give this lady $10,000, $5,000 to pay the property taxes, $5,000 she can keep in her pocket. I just want a 2-year option on the property so that in 2 years, I have the first right to buy it over these next 2 years. Nobody else, you can't sell it to anybody else. And as a part of the option contract, I'll let you live in the house rent free for 2 years. So that worked out well for her, right? She got her problem solved, and she ended up finding some relatives up north that she ended up moving in with prior to the 2 years hitting. Now, he did this investment with his Roth IRA. So the reason he did that is because he only had $10,000 in his Roth. He made a $5,000 contribution 1 year, a $5,000 contribution the next year. He really didn't have much houses that he can buy for $10,000, but he figured, well, what the heck? It's kind of a risk to take, but I've got $10,000 sitting in my Roth, and let's see what happens, right? He was basically swinging for the fences, and taking a big risk to do that. So his Roth IRA gave the consideration to the lady for $10,000, and now he had that 2-year option. Now, in the meantime, he's doing his real estate developments all throughout Third Ward, okay? And Joe has a unique talent to where he actually can has a good way of forcing appreciation. He doesn't just sit back and wait for appreciation. He forces appreciation. What I mean by that is he'll go to local businesses. He'll go to a corner store. He'll walk into the corner store and talk to the business owner and say, hey, I've got a construction company. Would you mind if I put some new siding on your storefront? No charge. I'll put like $15,000 and store owners go, are you nuts? Like you want to pay for my store to have new siding? Well, what's he trying to do? He's just improving the face of the aesthetics of the community that he is investing in. So when you start doing that, what happens? Well, now you improve the look of the community. Now you've got like Kroger coming in, you've got H-E-B coming in, you've got Starbucks coming in, and then what follows that? Real estate investors. Now real estate investors start coming in, and the unique thing about Houston is there's no zoning. So you can have a $30,000 hoarder house next to a $7.5 million multifamily unit. So, and that's key to this story because at the end of the 2 years, when Joe's Roth IRA retained title to the property for the $10,000 consideration it gave, the land alone that hoarder house sat on was close to $300,000. Because of the growth that had happened in those last few years, there's a big multi-family building that had just been built just across the street that this land was worth that much money. So this is the home run deal. One investment, $10,000 in 2 years, netted $297,000 in change, tax-free to a Roth IRA.
That is literally printing money in your Roth IRA. That is awesome.
Licensed to print money, and that's a real estate option. I think we have a class coming up on that, right?
We do, yes, and I'm so glad you brought this case study today because we talk about options and we're like, okay, if you have a small IRA, here's the many, you could wholesale or do options or something like that. You could partner, but we are actually teaching an options class in our Dallas office. For those of you that are local to Dallas, I actually help run our Dallas office, so feel free to reach out to me if you ever have any questions. But we do free lunch and learns every Wednesday, and actually next Wednesday, May 15th, the founder of Quest Trust Company, H. Quincy Long, is coming up to teach our Dallas Lunch and Learn about options.
And he is an expert in this category.
Yes. Quincy is one of the smartest people I think we both have ever met. He's one of the really four founders of the self-directed IRA industry. He's a genius, and he doesn't get to come up to Dallas very often, so we're super excited anytime he comes to teach our classes. So options are a great option. If you're if you identify that deal, identify the opportunity in there, and he helped this seller. She was 75 years old, so like you said, she ended up moving up north. She probably didn't have long-term plans to stay down there, and he really helped her out by getting her that money. And that really
hit a home run in the process too. So, and I think that I would say that real estate options, is one of the great strategies that very, very little investors use because they just haven't taken time to understand it. And again, like you said, there's a lot of options with an option contract. You actually have 4 different ways you can go with this contract. You can exercise the option, which is just you buy the property based on the terms that you agreed upon. You can cancel the option. Sometimes the seller or the homeowner will actually pay to cancel the option. So for instance, I've seen some options where the money made to the IRA was actually in a cancellation fee because in that scenario, say the lady wanted to cancel. Well, she signed an option agreement that's got her tied to give him the first right to buy the property. If she decides she wants to back out of that option, well, she may have to pay a cancellation fee, and that's negotiable. So again, that's another way that he could have made money on this deal. You could just let the option expire. Sometimes that's the best solution. You'll lose your consideration, but let's just say for whatever reason this property didn't work out as planned. He may just have to say, you know what, I lost my consideration, on to the next deal, but sometimes that's the best solution. Or you can assign the option. That's another thing. It's just like wholesaling. You can assign the option to another investor. So 4 different ways that you can use an option contract to your advantage, but I don't think enough people use it because they haven't taken the time to learn. And it's really easy, so come to our class and Quincy will show you how it's done.
Yeah, and we talk about it a lot, but we actually don't teach this class as often as some of the others that we may teach a lot because, it is a specialized strategy. It's, kind of like owner financing or something like that. You have to be knowledgeable about this strategy. And if you're looking to do an option with your IRA, you get the option contract drafted up and send it to Quest, right? And then we
Yep.
We do that?
And I would suggest do not draw up your own option contract.
No.
Get somebody, get an attorney that understands options. Obviously, you can't use Quest because we don't drop those types of documents up. But it is good to have an attorney that understands real estate options. A good option contract is something that every real estate investor should have in their hip pocket.
Yes, I definitely agree with that. And kind of going back to the structure of this option, you said at the end of the option period, he basically got that property for what his initial option investment was, right?
Yeah, so you can do it a couple different ways. So in their agreement, they stated that the purchase price he could take title to it would be the same $10,000 that he gave. Now, that's actually rare. A lot of times what you'll see is an investor might give $10,000 for consideration, but he gets to buy the property at said $200,000. Like it can lock a price in for you too as an investor. So I'll just real quick, I'll give you another scenario of an investor that used his IRA for an option. This was a guy that fell on hard times. He lost his job and got sick. So he had not paid the mortgage payment. So same situation. He was trying to get back on his feet. He was getting foreclosed on and really didn't have much solutions. There was no equity in the property. So an IRA investor came and said, well, I'll give you, and I believe this one was a little bit higher. It was $20,000. It was a $20,000 option. And they locked in the price, a 2-year option again, locked in the price where the investor could buy it for $200,000 over the next 2 years, okay, if they decide to do that. Well, fast forward in time, they're approaching the deadline for the option, okay? Now, 2 things happen. One, the homeowner gets back on his feet and actually gets a job better than his previous job, so now he's financially in a better situation, okay? Now he wants to stay in the house, okay? He likes the house, he's tied to the house. Now that he can afford the mortgage payments going forward, he decides he wants to stay in it. But here's the other thing. The property had appreciated over the 2 years and now is worth $280,000. Okay, so what was the solution here? What they decided to do is they basically split the difference. Because again, that investor has every right to buy that property at $200,000 and they get the $80,000 of equity. They weren't really looking to kick the guy out of the house. They were really looking to help him out. But the homeowner had to find a way to negotiate to cancel the option. So what they did, the cancellation of the option was $40,000. They just split it right in the middle. But the IRA took a $20,000 investment in 2 years, got $40,000 back. So again, good investment.
Yeah, that's awesome. And kind of going back to the timeframes too, you know, when you're thinking of creatively structuring these deals, how can I hit these home run deals in my IRA? Think, is this a good deal for my IRA? Not every deal may be the best structure or best type of deal for your IRA. If it's something, you know, if you need that profit, if you need that liquidity now, maybe don't do that deal in your IRA. If you're looking at buying a really nice Airbnb in, you know, Galveston or Florida that you want to go stay at and you want to go personally enjoy, don't buy that property in your IRA because then you can't go stay at that property. There's restrictions there that would prohibit you from doing that. But if, say, you know, you have an option or you have this opportunity to come by where you can help out a homeowner and, you know, you might see your profits 2 to 5 years from now, well, that's in your IRA anyways that you're going to access when you're retired. So kind of think about those different options. And I like to tell people too, think about what type of investment you're looking at doing with your IRA. What appeals to you? Do you want to be like hold active real estate within your IRA and be able to take advantage of that tax-free appreciation? Now you're going to have maybe some management things that come along and the ongoing expenses with holding that asset. So it may be a little bit more active on your end. You're not just putting it on a shelf like the first case studies that we went through. Or do you want a case or an investment that you can just put on the shelf, leave it there? Your returns and appreciation might not be as high in your IRA, but you're completely passive. You're not doing anything in there. So as you're thinking of, okay, well, how can I actually go out and hit these home runs? Think about what appeals to you. What are your goals? How long do you have until retirement? And those will kind of help answer those questions and kind of push you in the right direction of, you know, what types of investments may give you a home run, basically.
And here's another point that I just thought of when you were saying it is that with the IRAs at Quest, we have 7 different types, right? Some of them have different tax benefits for different purposes. And why I say that is most of your IRAs you think of for retirement, right? Your Roth IRA, your traditional IRA, your SEP IRA. Those are usually accounts that you see the maximum tax benefit when you're past retirement age, 59 and a half, who knows when that's going to be, depending on your age. But we have 2 specialty accounts, which are the education savings account, Coverdell Education Savings Account, where distributions out of that can be taken out immediately to pay for a child's or grandchild's qualified education expenses from kindergarten through college. So we're talking tuition, books, computers, tutoring, all those things that you have to consume as a parent to help get your kids educated could actually be paid with tax-free dollars out of an ESA.
Yeah.
And we also have the health savings account. Same thing. You make contributions to a health savings account. You can take the profit out of the investments that you've got it in, but you could take the profit to pay for immediate healthcare needs for you, your spouse, and your dependents. The reason why I say that is because if you have an investment, let's say it's a real estate option that's going to be a two-year period. Maybe that's best done in the accounts that you can use right away, which are the education savings account and the health savings account. And maybe the investments you put on the shelf are best done in your Roth, your traditional. Don't make the mistake of putting an ESA into an investment that pays off in 20 years because you're going to need that before 20 years. Same thing with health expenses. So sometimes the account, based on the benefit of each account, may dictate which investments are better suited for that.
Yes, and not only that, but kind of continuing on that subject, because it's and for those of you who don't know, Nate loves to talk about the types of accounts, which is great. There are 7 different types of accounts that you can self-direct. Once we start talking about types of accounts, like, we could go all day about it. So if you want to know more about these, more than what we're going to touch on today, watch some of our other classes that we have on our website and on our Facebook page. We talk a lot about the different types of accounts, and not only do they fit different needs, whether they're retirement expenses or health expenses, education, things like that, but a lot of these accounts, you can actually max out your contributions independently of each other. So if you have multiple children that have their Coverdell education savings accounts, you can max out your contributions to each Coverdell for each child. It's still pretty limited what you can put in there, but again, it's not about what you put into the account, it's about
what you invest in.
Yeah, how you invest it, how you creatively structure that deal, and
I think you very politely just called me a nerd, basically, is what you said.
We're all IRA nerds,
yeah. We are. I know we get kind of boring sometimes, but I think this is all good stuff. I mean, obviously, you can see the advantage of using some of these strategies and applying them to these IRAs. That's a great way to make completely tax-free dollars and make a lot of it too.
Yeah, definitely. And you hear IRAs, and you hear us talk about IRAs literally all day, every day, and you're like, oh, that may get a little boring. But avoiding taxes on your real estate investments is not boring.
That is not boring. That excites me.
Yeah, me too. So, and I mean, I'm 26 years old, and all I do is talk about IRAs. I literally go out with my friends on the weekends, and we end up talking about self-directed IRAs.
You must be just the hit of the party.
Oh, always, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, there's so many different types of accounts that you can take advantage of, and I kind of lost my train of thought with that because I was thinking about how much of an IRA nerds we all are. But no, you have all of these different options. You have different ways you can invest it. You want to, again, know the rules and regulations. When you're using your IRA or any of these self-directed accounts, you can't use it to loan money to yourself. You can't invest into your own business or buy a property that you're going to go live in. There are certain restrictions that are set by the IRS because your IRA is still your IRA. You're supposed to receive your benefit in retirement. You can certainly self-direct it, choose which investments go in there, and choose how those are structured, but there are certain people that cannot personally benefit right now from those IRA investments. We talk a lot about that in other classes, but the main point I want to get across with this is that once you know these rules and restrictions and know what you can't do, there are so many options for you, for you to invest these funds with your IRA.
Well, just think about the 3 ones that we've already mentioned. I mean, your dad's deal for taking $9,000, actually $4,000 and getting back $90,000 and doing it 2 more times. Nancy Labs, what did she make on hers?
40-something thousand.
$47,000, and then we got Joe that took $10,000 and in 2 years netted $297,000. I mean, what's the yield on that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your dad would say it's not. You can't calculate it.
Yeah.
You can't calculate it.
Yeah.
So, but think about that. The yield is phenomenal, but the fact that it's all tax-free. It's like the cherry on top of the cake. Yeah,
and especially too, whenever you're thinking about these home run deals, don't pass up a deal just because it's not a home run. I mean, games are not won. I'm going to make a sports reference, so bear with me. Games are not won just by home runs. Those like single hitters, the doubles, the small first downs. I'm obviously crossing games here,
right.
But those will help you get to retirement. Don't pass up a deal because it's not a huge home run. Think about, if I have a small IRA now and I do this deal, it may only pay back $3,000. That's not my home run that I'm looking for, but now that my small IRA has made $3,000 more, now I have just that much more money that I can work with, that I can work into my next deal that will then return me more money.
It's a really good point. And I think Quincy says this a lot too, is don't wait for the home run. Home runs are cool, right? But don't sit there and wait for the home run. A couple singles and a double still score runs.
Yes, that's my sports reference. Put much more better than I think. And you
first downs.
Well, you know.
I know. I'm just kidding.
But so kind of on that note, you've also, I know, well, we've both partnered our IRAs. We don't just talk the talk all day long. We also, pretty much all of our IRA specialists have IRAs at Quest. We partner them together. We're doing investments. I've partnered my IRA with my parents for 3 different fix and flips now. But I want to talk about how you actually helped structure a promissory note between you and several other Questies or Quest employees that several IRA specialists were partnered in on it, and your IRA actually got a nice little upfront profit from you structuring that deal.
It did. It was just really a quick investment. I had a real estate investor that approached me after one of our classes and said that he had this property that he had found through an inheritance. The property, just to give you an example, was in a rough area of town. He only needed $25,000 to buy it, and it was a $30,000 rehab. So the rehab was more than the house. And the house was in pretty bad shape. The grass was grown through the concrete. Gutter was falling down. You could barely even see the house through all the shrubbery and things like that. But it was on a corner lot. And he was saying that he could pick it up for, and rehab it for $55,000. He just wanted to borrow the money for a year so that he could hold it a year. And, if he sold it, he wouldn't have to, pay short-term capital gains. And he was willing to pay above average interest because he couldn't get financing at a bank, right? Conventional bank, they weren't going to loan on that type of property. They also weren't going to give him 100% financing since it's an investment property. But he said the ARV was $125,000. So obviously he's not really concerned with interest rate. He's more concerned with how fast can I buy this before somebody else buys it, okay? And how little out of pocket can I get into this deal. So, he approached me and it was $55,000 he needed. I only had $550 in my Roth at the time because the $550, and the rest of my money was out on another loan that hadn't been paid out yet. So, but I like the idea as a lender. You like the idea of $55,000 secured by a property worth $125. You want to do that deal all day long. You don't want to see that go to somebody else. So what I did is I said, well, I don't have all the money in my Roth right now, but give me a couple hours and let me see where else I can round up some money, okay?
Down the hallway.
Right. So obviously you got to be very cautious in who you partner with because, my network is going to be different than your network. My network might even be different than Hayley's network to a certain degree. But my network would be, the other executives at Quest. So basically what I did is I walked down the hallway. I talked to Quincy. I talked to Nathan. I talked to Forrest. These are all presidents of our company. And basically just asked him, I said, hey, I got a pretty interesting deal. He's got the title commitment. He's got an appraisal. I'll send it to you. And if you've got some extra IRA money sitting there uninvested, let me know. Well, all 3 of them said, yes, I've got some extra money in this account. I've got some extra money in my HSA. I've got some extra money in my daughter's ESA. And basically, long story short, within a couple of hours, we had rounded up 8 different IRAs, 1 being mine, 7 being other people's, for a total of $55,000. So I went back to the borrower and I said, I've got the $55,000. It's just going to be structured on 1 promissory note. There's going to be 8 IRAs listed. That doesn't mean there's 8 liens. It's just a fractionalized note. We still had the first lien position on the property. And then when that borrower makes payments, he just pays 1 check to Quest, and then Quest will just split the payment according to the ownership percentages 8 ways. So it doesn't make it any harder for the borrower. He still makes 1 payment to Quest. But the interesting thing what I did is, again, you got to understand the rules before you do this, is my Roth IRA was the only participant of anybody that would be disqualified to me. I didn't have my personal money in it. I didn't have any of my other accounts in there. So when I was structuring or negotiating the terms with the borrower, he agreed to pay 2 points up front and 12%. And I asked all the other lenders that I was partnered with, would they be okay with all splitting 12% and my Roth IRA retaining the 2 points up front? The points are based on the total loan amount, not my $550. So long story short is 3 days after we funded this deal, my $550 went out, and then I got a check from the title company right back to my account for the 2 points up front, which was $1,100. So I doubled the value of my IRA just by collecting the points. And then I continued to share the 12% through the year. The borrower made the payments on time, obviously, because he's obviously not going to want a property like that go to waste with all that equity in it. And he actually refinanced it out with a long-term lender, and everybody got paid.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
A good deal. Yeah. And again, it's all about leveraging your network, knowing how the rules work, how you can structure these deals, have a good point of contact, obviously not at Quest, but someone like an attorney that can help you structure these deals. Work with a title company, make sure your investment is protected. As an IRA holder or as a lender, you always want to ask yourself, how is my investment protected if things don't go how they should? You're not going to hit a home run if you don't protect your investment. You might, but it's not going to be sustainable.
You'll lose a lot of games doing it like that.
Yeah, and you don't want us to have to zero value anything. You want to make sure you're protected, or your IRA's investment is protected. But you've got all of these different options out there. That was just one, investment that we see. How many investments do we process a month now?
We process close to 300 a month. For a total of about $50 to $60 million a month. So our transactions department, people always say, well, what's the market doing right now? If you ask us, the market's hot because our transactions department consistently funds more deals on a month-to-month basis. So is that the market's good? Is it that more people are using self-directed IRAs? Is it a combination of both? I don't know, but it's fun right now. Seeing all these investments funded in our transactions department is great because they get funds out within 24 hours.
Yeah, they do. And each of our different transactions department, we won't touch on this for too long, but we break them down into you fund real estate investments all day long. You fund private entity investments all day long. Me as an IRA specialist, it's my role to help you understand how these accounts work, how the money moves back and forth, things like that. Then once you're ready to do the investments, just let our transactions team know, and they fund things very quickly, 24 to 48 hours.
Let me throw this out there for any viewers. If we got Quest clients out there, post in the comments, post your best self-directed IRA story. We love to hear the success stories from Quest clients. Or shoot, even if you had a learning lesson, maybe you learned something that the viewers, the rest of us could learn from, some pitfalls. We love getting that information because we're always looking for new case studies, new information. It's good for us to share it as a community where it's just not us talking. Share some of your success stories with us through the comments.
Yeah, definitely. And believe it or not, as many transactions as we fund, as many people as we work with, it's hard for us sometimes to go in and say, oh, Eddie did this transaction on this day and it paid back this and this seller did this. We don't see the ins and outs of the investment. Different departments see those payments going in or coming out.
Yeah, it's hard to tell the story with just the paper. So we like to have the clients actually tell us the story. And if you need tips on how to tell a story, go watch your dad present his case study on that March Madness.
Oh my
event.
gosh,
it is hilarious.
It's so funny. But yeah, post them in the comments below. Be sure to like, comment, share. We are nearing the end of today's show, so we hope you enjoyed it. We'll be doing more content, case studies, sharing all the different creative investment strategies. Again, we're not giving investment advice, but we want to. Our main goal is to help you save more money for retirement, avoid taxes on your investments, grow your IRA faster than you can through traditional investments. So give us a call if you want to learn more how to do that, 855-FUN-IRAs, or just visit our website. We are very active on Facebook. I will be all over the comments below answering questions, so be sure to keep them coming if you're watching later and then do have more questions. But also be sure to attend your local upcoming events. Prepare yourself, grow your network, educate yourself as much as possible, and there's so many free resources out there. Tomorrow night is the big Propelio quarterly event, May 14th. I'm sure Propelio has a ton of information on that page, but this is one of the biggest events in the Dallas area. It's now quarterly. They have some awesome speakers. Quest will be there as a sponsor.
Packed.
And it's great to attend. It's fun. There's really good quality people at these events. Go out, talk to people, network, talk to us, learn how you can do it all tax-free. We will see you next time.
One more plug. If you want to hear more success stories from real self-directed IRA investors, sign up for our Quest Expo in August.
Yes.
Biggest event of the year. We only do it one time a year. We're expecting close to 1,000 people. We've got about 30 different speakers that are non-Quest employees. These are actual investors that will talk about their investment strategies. And we've got people from talking about notes all the way to multifamily, all the way to all sorts of investment strategies. And it's going to be in Houston. So sign up for that.
Yes, it's in Houston, August 23rd through the 25th. We're expecting it to double in size this year. We did the first one in Dallas last year, and it was a lot of fun. But come to the Quest Expo. We'll have people there from all over the country. We'll have some special promo codes for you guys. So call me. I'll make sure you get a little bit of like a 10% discount or something on your Expo ticket. But yeah, it was great to have you guys today. We will see you next time on Quest Talks. If you all have questions about self-directed IRAs, give us a call. We'd love to help answer them for you.
Have a good week.
Propelio TV is sponsored by Noble Mortgage and Investments, Batch Skip Tracing, Think Multifamily, CreativeCashflow.com, and Life and Air.
Hey everybody, I'm Ryan with Propelio. If you like what you saw, please subscribe. Turn on those notifications and stick around for more. We have tons of content like this all over our channel. So if you want to learn more about real estate investing, stick around, watch Propelio TV, and we'll see you later.